Yesterday in my membership, I asked my clients, when I say insurance, who's the first company you think of? And they all typed in the chat box, Geico, 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 Geico. They all said Geico. And I said, why does this happen? It's because if for nothing else, even if your messaging is terrible, even if you have no idea what you're doing with marketing and how to storytell and how to create the best hooks, if nothing else, for the last 20 plus years, Geico has been making commercials that say they can save you 50% or more on car insurance by switching to Geico. And they make the most commercials, I think, out of any insurance company. So if nothing else, repetition and consistency has put them on the top of minds of all of my clients and probably yours too. So how do we create consistent messaging across all areas of our social media so that when you launch something, people sign up, so that when they suffer a problem that you deal with, they think of you, right? I say insurance, I need new insurance, you think Geico. How do we do that? That's what I'm talking about in today's episode. Let's motherfucking go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Powerful Online Leadership Podcast. Whether you want to become an online coach or currently are one, you are here because you are seeking to make lasting changes and a greater impact in this world. With the help of my powerful guest, we are here to help you start and grow your online coaching business by leaning into what makes you powerful, learning what it takes to become a world-class coach, and of course, gaining the tools to monetize, market, and sell your service. If you love the message we are sharing on this podcast, please leave a rating and review on the platform you're listening to.
So I was also doing some social media audits for my clients inside of the membership, and I just did like 10 in a row. And what I really noticed big time is that what so many people are missing straight off the bat from their Instagram profiles or any profile, doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn, YouTube, anything, your banner on YouTube, your banner on LinkedIn, to what it says that you do in your profile, to all of your content, there's missing links way too often. And we drown ourselves out, and people don't know what to come to us for, and they don't know what to think about. When I tell people when they join calls of mine and I say, introduce yourself and tell me the problem you solve, I say that because people buy things because whatever they're buying solves a problem of theirs, right? You would join a membership because you have a messaging problem, you have a content problem. You would sign up with Jillian Murphy because you have a sales problem. You would buy insurance from Geico because you're paying too much, or maybe you got a new car, you need insurance, you have a problem, you don't have a solution for it, so you go buy that thing. This is true for most anything. Even like you buy dessert. Why? Because you have a sweet tooth, or because it's date night and dessert comes after date night and you want to like walk around town and connect with your partner more. All of these things we buy because they solve a certain problem. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not just an online coach who I mostly speak to a lot of. It's really anything. And so what I notice in these profile audits is this disconnection in people's profiles. So when we look at, if you go on Instagram right now, if you open up your phone, you would see someone's handle, Matthew.Allen, then you would see their name, and mine would say Matt Allen, and it says / messaging, storytelling, marketing. And then below that, you see my bio, what I do, and then you see a link that you could click, and then you might go to highlights, and you might go to my pinned posts, and then you start seeing my content. And so when we look at all these different aspects of a profile, when you go look at mine, what do you see? My name, Matt Allen, messaging, storytelling, marketing, but messaging, right? Then the next line, it says, I help you master your messaging and become the only obvious solution to your ideal client's problem. But the next line is master messaging. And then I have a little cute thing there. And then below that, my opt-in, the thing that you should click, my call to action to click the link, is master your messaging in 10 minutes a week. That's my newsletter. And so now you've seen the word messaging 3 times. And then you scroll down a little further. I don't really use my highlights. If you go look at them at the time of recording this, they're so old. They're a little updated, but they're mostly very old. And whatever, I should probably just delete them all. But then below that, you have my 3 pinned posts. And one of those posts is social proof. And it says, what happens when you, I don't remember what I say, perfect your messaging? I should probably say nail your messaging or master your messaging. But it says, what happens when you like master your messaging? And then it's a bunch of screenshots of people who've had monetary wins and all that stuff. So social proof. But the first thing you see is another messaging. What do I talk about all the time? Messaging and content. And I could change all those words to content if I want to, right? Whatever. But the point is that I chose something and I'm getting known for it. I am the messaging coach. I am here to help you with your messaging. If you have a messaging problem, your content doesn't work, I am that person. So ideally, when you suffer that problem, when you go and you make an Instagram reel that took you 2 hours and you were like, this is my best one, and it took so long to make, and nobody's DMing me and all that stuff, like things that I say quite often that I repeat a lot of. You suffer from that problem, and then you think of me. I have a messaging problem. I should hire Matt because I know down to the problem he solves. And so if you go to your Instagram profile and look at the consistency of your messaging, and is it obvious? And I know people get stuck in like, yeah, but I can help with so many things. And I say this a lot, right? Get known for something or get known for no thing. Get known for nothing. We really want to get known for something. I know you can help people with a lot of stuff, and you can do that down the road. But right now, if you're trying to get known for everything, you're trying to solve all these problems, and you're listening to this podcast and it's not working, then I would advise you to maybe try something different. Try to hone in on one thing. Try to pick even a word, right? And that could be super helpful to get known for that thing. You know, last summer I said content way more than messaging, and people would be DMing me and calling me the content king. I didn't call myself that. People would just be saying it because I would say content so much. I've changed it a little bit to messaging. That's fine. You can do that. It's not a drastic change. There are no rules. Do whatever you want. And of course, I'm saying that and I'm telling you to get known for one thing, but it's just a different strategy you can try. If the strategy you're employing right now isn't working, I would say try this. Try getting known for consistent messaging everywhere. And there's the next step to this. So that's kind of your profile. You can start to play around with your profile and then remember, like, your profile really is just to get you a follow. You don't need to try and say every single thing under the sun in your profile. That's what your content's for. Really, what you want to do with your profile is somebody who doesn't know you clicks your name and they see the first thing that you do. You want them to go, oh, I love this. I want this. Let me follow more. And then you can give them all the other stuff if you want. But really, we just want to get followed. We want to get people in our world, right? It's like, if I could just get them to subscribe to my newsletter, then my newsletter I can just like, and they read my newsletter, then cool, they can learn all this stuff, right? You're not changing the world. You're not making a sale from your bio, okay? Well, let's pretend like you probably, that like makes total sense when I say that. And you're like, well, duh. But you're trying to create a bio that gets you a sale, and that's not how this works. That's not how your marketing works either. You don't make one piece of content and make a sale from one piece of content. It's people experiencing 30, 40, 50 pieces of your content and then making a decision to buy. Sure, there's one-off instances where people, you know, even referrals, or will someone just like really needs your thing and you just had the perfect post that spoke right to them and they were ready to buy. Yes, that happens. But most people, most client journeys are a bit longer than just one post. So remember that. That leads into the second part. When you launch something, when you're like, I'm going to do a masterclass, I'm going to launch this new offer. A client asked me, she's doing a breathwork certification. She's going to be certified in breathwork. I don't remember which kind. Doesn't matter. And so she asked a really good question. She said, how can I start like talking about this, hyping breathwork up before like just getting the certification, and all of a sudden like I have the certification and then like I start making sales right when I get the certification? Like, is there ways that I can start teasing and promoting this? And it's such a great question because I think a lot of times people have a new offer, they want to do, you know, a webinar or masterclass or whatever it might be, and it comes out of nowhere. Like, for example, this would be my best example. I've made, I think, a podcast on this, but if I come out with a storytelling masterclass, okay, yes, it's still about content. So we could say, well, of course, maybe people would see that coming. But what I mean by that is that there's many ways I could teach and talk about marketing and messaging and content. Storytelling is one of them. What I would want to do is start to talk about storytelling a little bit more. So you could talk about everything a little bit, let's say. Let's say you have a few ways. Let's say I'm the messaging person and I have many ways to talk about messaging. Subconscious, getting known for one thing, storytelling, a deeper purpose, like on and on, right? Let's say those 4 things. And let's say I'm 25% of the time talking about each one, you know, throughout my content, throughout the few months. But if I know that I'm going to be doing a storytelling masterclass, I would probably start talking about storytelling more, a month, maybe even 2 months out, and getting all my stories talking about storytelling, making more content about storytelling. And that way, when all of a sudden I say, hey guys, storytelling masterclass on December 1st, right now it's November 3rd. if I come out and give myself a 3-4 week launch to get people signed up for a storytelling masterclass, then they've already been hearing about storytelling for a month or two. And they're like, oh, sick, he's teaching this? I've been wanting this. They might not even know that they've been wanting that, but because I've been talking about it so much and it's been top of mind, all of a sudden I say, hey, here's an opportunity to learn directly from me, storytelling masterclass. They'd be like, oh, yes. They might not even know why they want storytelling. This is like the subconscious working too. The same way that if I say what insurance comes to top of mind, you just say Geico. You don't really think about it, you just say Geico, right? So it's the same idea here in that repetition. Now, what I would like you to do is not feel like there's kind of two sides of this. Like, I don't want you to feel like you're repeating yourself, but also, is that so bad? So not feeling like you're repeating yourself. There's so many ways I could talk about storytelling, right? I could teach my 5P framework on storytelling, and I could turn each P into its own piece of content. If I took, particulars, which is getting specific, I could talk about why getting specific is so important. I could teach you how to get more specific. I could show examples of how to get more specific. So even that one P, I could now turn into 3-4 different pieces of content. So now I got this one content where I could talk about my 5 Ps all together. I could talk about each one of them individually, and each one of those I could talk about even in more in depth. And they can all just be one little piece of content. So now I've got like 10 plus pieces of content, and I got my doggy here next to me tapping me. And then so I got like 10 plus ways I could teach storytelling. And not only that, but I could tell stories about storytelling. So I could tell stories about how I learned why storytelling is important. I could tell a story about a time when storytelling has impacted me. I could tell a story about watching, the movie Click and crying at the end and how much emotion it brought me and how that taught me how to tell better stories. And so I could teach about storytelling. I could tell stories about storytelling. There's endless ways to talk about storytelling. And as many times as I said storytelling in this podcast, I might be priming you for a storytelling masterclass. I'm not, but I could be, and maybe I should be because of this podcast. But you can see like this repetition over and over is creating this like feeling like, I think I need that, right? It's the same thing like when I talk about the marketing industry, when I was learning 5 years ago how to market myself better. And it's like, build, know, like, and trust. Build, know, like, and trust. Hear that over and over. So now what do I think? I need to build, or better example, niche down. You have to niche down. You have to niche down. Through authorities telling you to do it, and through repetition, you think you need to niche down, right? I should niche down. And then because you haven't niched down, you shame yourself, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and all that stuff, right? Another great example. Everybody who listens brushes their teeth every morning, every night, right? Well, when you were a kid, if you were like me and most kids, you don't want to brush your teeth. You hate doing it. But every night, your parents, the authority, and through repetition, they go, brush your teeth, brush your teeth. I'll know if you just rinse your toothbrush underwater, like brush your teeth, brush your teeth. And with repetition, and of course, now as adults, we know it's the healthy thing to do. But that also comes from your parents told you over and over and over. So now you just do the thing without having to think about it. And so you, online as the authority, you get to be that authority, and you just repeat yourself on repeat. And you can do that. So if you want to launch a thing, you can start creating more content around the thing you want to start teaching, so that when you go to make your big announcement, hey, my program's starting, people were already primed for it. How many times, you probably don't even know this, but like, not only did I talk directly about growth, my membership, and was talking about growth and like sharing all these things about it, I was also using the word growth in my marketing. I was saying things like grow and growth in a lot of my content. That was very intentional. It's almost like the subliminal messaging that I'm pretty sure is illegal. If, a kid's, if you're in the movie theater watching a movie and one of the frames is like, Trump or whatever. And not that was happening, but like, it's subconsciously, oh, Trump is in my mind. Repetition breeds trust. Just like if you were to smell your mom's perfume, if you were walking down the sidewalk, you'd get this flood of emotions, and you would have this feeling, right? About like, whoa. And you would think of your mom, and you would maybe feel nostalgic and safe and happy in that moment because your mom wore that perfume every day for 15 years. Like, I know that's true for me. My mom has worn this perfume every day, probably for her like 40 years, but for me, 33 years of my life. Anyway, that would breed safety, that the repetition, the familiarity breeds safety, and that's what people want. They want to feel safe. And so you can do that with your marketing. Make them feel safe. They're hearing things over and over. You're the authority. They go, oh, this probably is something I need. And of course, you can see this as a tactic or a strategy, but what we're really doing here is that your work is out of integrity. You're in integrity. I believe my listeners are really good people who want to impact the world in very positive ways. This isn't like you're selling snake oil, right? So you can use these psychological tactics, these subconscious buying habits for your advantage. If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. Somebody who's not as in integrity as you, somebody who's not wanting to change the world in an impactful way like you are. So use this. And again, you're not going to help and change as many lives as you want just by your content. You change lives when people pay and work with you and pay you, so they trust you more. And when people pay, they pay attention and they start actually taking action. So use this to your advantage. Repetition is huge. So you can use it, 1, in your profile. Number 2, you can use it in your language and in your content. And I think I had a third, and now I don't know where I was with that, but repetition, right? That's a huge thing. And I think what I wanted to say was like, my thing is messaging, but you can do it at that kind of level below too, of like storytelling. Messaging. You want to improve your messaging? Practice storytelling, right? And I could use that in many different ways. So even that's what I told my client, going back to that, like her thing is connection and reciprocation. Like you guys give a lot, right? You give a lot of value. Sometimes we feel like, when is the money going to come in? When am I going to get supported the way I support other people? Her thing is like that reciprocation. So I was like, we'll talk about how breath work has helped you be more receptive to receiving, right? You've been giving a lot. Breath work has allowed you to create space so you could receive. And so you see how we can start to intertwine, just bringing it back to my client, like breath work might not seem like it relates to the thing, but sure it does. If breath work has allowed you to be better at what you do, this idea of like masterminding and, the rising tide lifts all ships, and you give so you can receive, like all of that, then I'm sure breathwork has allowed you to do more of that. So you're just intertwining that message. The same thing, right? Like, seems more obvious. Storytelling helps you with your messaging, helps build raving fans and things like that. So there's always ways to start to work in other things that you teach into the core problem that you solve. And that's a big thing I like to help people with. So I'm hoping that this was super helpful into starting to think about if you're about to launch something or release something new and you haven't done it yet, maybe it's a week away. Well, spend the next week using that word over and over. The final thing I'll say too is, this is how I like to use my content. I put content out, and if I see a hook that works, I'll try the hook again, and that can be like the title of my next masterclass, or maybe the name of my next program. So one thing I had was like a reel that did really well was steal my framework to create stories that sell. And so I tried it again. I said, steal my framework to create, I think I said like, I don't know, I forget what I said. Something else though, not storytelling. And it did pretty well, but not as good as storytelling. I was like, okay, steal my framework for blank does really well. And storytelling does really well. So I kind of combined those. And that was a masterclass I did earlier this year. Steal my storytelling framework that sells. So those are things you can think about when you are using this messaging. You can even use your content and be like, oh, this worked. All right, now that's the name of my thing. Let's start using those words over and over again. Cool. All in there. I hope that was helpful. Let me know. Hit me up in the DMs or screenshot this, put it on Instagram, and would love to always get feedback. And if you guys ever want to request something or have questions for me, hit me up in the DMs. I would love to make a podcast and go in depth on one of your questions. Thanks so much for listening. Let's fucking grow.